I'm Victoria Harwood, 35, and I've spent most of my adult life pretending silence was strength. Raised in a family where love had a curfew and apologies came with conditions. I learned early that being the youngest meant being the most disposable. I'm the widow who still wears her ring, the single mom who codes security protocols by day and checks the windows twice before bed. I know how to hide in plain sight. And still, some truths find you, even when you've locked every door. Millie slammed the passenger door harder than usual when we got home from graduation rehearsal. Her gown in the back seat still had the tag on it. She didn't say a word until we were halfway through reheating leftovers. Then, knife in hand, she dropped it. Was Greg really my dad? The blade didn't slip, but my pulse did. A half-second beat. Then I made the mistake of answering with a question. What makes you ask that? She shrugged. Too rehearsed. A girl at school said she overheard something. Said he wasn't. She's wrong. Lie. Too fast. I figured, she said, but she didn't sound convinced. It was close to midnight when I heard the knock. 3 short taps. No one knocks like that unless they know something. Or want something. Or both. I checked the peephole. Man, late 40s. Trim beard. Gray coat, black gloves. Familiar in that uncomfortable way, like a dream you forget but know you've had. He tilted his head toward the doorbell camera. He knew it was there, and he knew I was watching. Ms. Harwood, he said calmly. My name is Elias Quinn. I believe I'm Amelia's father. I didn't open the door, just stared at him through reinforced glass and 10 years of denial. Get off my porch, I said. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a plain envelope, held it up to the camera. This will explain. Leave it there. He placed it down gently, nodded once, and left like a man who knew he'd be back. Millie was already at the top of the stairs when I turned around. Who was that? Wrong address, I said, too smooth. She didn't believe me. I tucked the envelope under my arm, locked the door, double-bolted it, then triple-checked. Upstairs, I opened the envelope with gloved hands. DNA report. 2 names. Mine. Hers. And Gregory's crossed out in red. You can't fake DNA, but you can manipulate data, especially when you've built systems to protect the kind of secrets people kill for. Millie knocked once, eyes wide. Is it true? No, I said. She didn't ask what I was denying. She didn't have to. I burned the envelope in the kitchen sink while she slept, watched the red ink curl and vanish like a whisper. There are things children shouldn't carry, burdens that break you long before they kill you. At dawn, I got the call. Dad's voice was gravel. Tell Millie to call her real father to her graduation. I didn't answer. I just stood there, barefoot on the cold tile, the echo of that sentence ripping through everything I'd built. He knew, but he wasn't the only one. Because later that same day, a man knocked on my door, and he knew things about Greg that no one outside this family should. I didn't sleep. The envelope had been ash in the sink by 2:17 a.m., and I was still sitting on the kitchen floor at 4:03, staring at the smudge it left on the porcelain. Greg used to say, every lie comes with a receipt. Most people just throw it away too fast to notice. I hadn't noticed. Or maybe I'd ignored the smoke too long. At 6:30 a.m., I called Rain. Vic, his voice rasped like gravel under tires. You okay? Do you still have access to DMV cross-state records? He didn't ask why, just said, give me a name. Elias Quinn, mid-40s, Pittsburgh address, might be using an alias. A pause, keys clacking. You sure about the name? No, I said. I'm sure about the look in his eyes. Click. He was on it. I hung up, showered fast, dressed faster. Black jeans, hoodie, tied my hair up tight, checked the front door camera, nothing. But that didn't mean no one was watching. Cut scene. Millie sat at the breakfast table in silence. She picked a toast. Her eyes didn't meet mine. "Mom," she said finally, "do I look like him?" I froze. Not because of the question, because of how calm she sounded. Like she'd already decided the answer. "No, I lied. You look like you." Her phone buzzed. She flipped it. Froze. I crossed the room in 2 steps. "Who was that?" "Unknown number." She hesitated. It said, "Nice dress for the big day. Dad's proud." I snatched the phone. No contact. No trace. Just the message, hanging there like a noose. I checked the security feed. Still nothing. Someone had eyes inside. Cut scene. Rain called back an hour later. "Vic, we've got a problem," he said. "There is an Elias Quinn in the system, born 1979, New Jersey. Declared legally dead. 12 years ago. Case closed. No body recovered." My throat dried. Then, who the hell knocked on my door? "That's what I'm about to find out." He sent me a file. Police records. Last employment. Defense contractor. Filed a whistleblower complaint a year before his disappearance. Claim. Unauthorized gene mapping initiative tied to private sector biometric encryption. Greg's field. Escalation. I went for the old safe in the closet. The one Greg had welded into the foundation himself. The code hadn't changed. 0915, our wedding date. It opened with a slow hiss. Inside, our marriage certificate, a small locked cash box, a black USB drive with no label. No keys for the cash box. I pocketed it. Laptop on the kitchen island. I plugged in the USB. Click. Screen flashed once. Static. Then. Gregory Harwood on screen. Recorded. Blurry. His voice low. "If this message plays, I'm already gone." My heart stopped. I thought I could protect her. From the data. From Elias. But you can't encrypt blood. He looked away. Back again. A breath. "If anyone gets this and she's still alive, Millie is the key. And they'll do whatever it takes to get her." The video glitched. Froze. A cold gust swept the back of my neck. I turned. The living room camera, the one above the fireplace, was on. I never turned it on. I unplugged it. Pulled the SD card. Loaded the feed into the laptop. Playback. 2 weeks of footage. Millie. Every room. Every angle. Someone had been watching her for days. Cut scene. The floor shifted beneath me. I stumbled back. The walls didn't feel like mine anymore. I checked the router logs. Pinged IP addresses. Anomalies. External access from a remote node registered in Baltimore. Encryption traced back to a private lab. Out of business for 5 years. Registered to one name. Elias Quinn. The man was dead, but he was logging in. Cut scene. I called Rain. "They've been in my house." "Do you still have the drive?" "Yes." "Then they're not done." "What do they want?" He paused. "Not what? Who?" My hands shook. I opened the cash box with bolt cutters. Inside, a photo of Greg and Elias Young at some tech conference. Behind them, a banner. Project Gemini, Biometric Future, Now. Below the photo, a file labeled Phase 9. Red stamp. Decommissioned. I opened it. Line after line of code. Names. Genomes. One stood out. Harwood. Amelia J. Carrier variant confirmed. My knees buckled. Millie wasn't the target. She was the blueprint. They've been watching my daughter, and I think they want her next. I called Millie's school and told them she had the flu. She didn't ask questions, just curled deeper into the couch, wrapped in the same blanket she used when Greg died. Her silence screamed louder than anything. Outside, the sun hit the blinds at a crooked angle. The house looked normal, smelled like cinnamon and old coffee. But something had changed. It's not the storm that scares you. It's when the sky goes quiet before it breaks. I texted Rain. Need eyes on Phase 9. Anything not scrubbed. Pull old government filings if you have to. His reply was immediate. I already did. It's worse than we thought. Meet me. 40 minutes. Bring the drive. Cut scene. AMC parking garage. Level 3. I parked in a shadowed corner. Rain's car already there, engine off. He climbed out slow, like every movement carried weight. He didn't smile. Tell me, I said. He opened his trunk. Inside, paper files, 3 laptops, and a burner phone still in plastic. Phase 9 was a joint development, he said. Private sector started it. Then DARPA jumped in. But someone buried the whole thing when a test subject died during live mapping. Mapping what? I asked. Neurobiometric pattern syncing. Basically, using genetic data to create a remote access control framework over certain neural responses. You mean? I mean turning DNA into passwords, into switches, and if your daughter's genome is the key. He didn't finish. I closed my eyes. Greg knew. Rain nodded, and so did Elias. Cut scene. We went through the documents. Greg's name wasn't on anything, but aliases, yes. Proxy companies, silent stakes, and every trail pointed back to one person who signed off on test funding. Rayford Kell, ex-defense sector, quiet exit, no press, disappeared 7 years ago. I ran cold. Rain checked his burner. I got one more lead. Former lab tech. Said she heard your name once. Tori Harwood. She's willing to talk. Where? He paused. Her address bounced. But she sent coordinates. Forest line just outside Allegheny. That's a trap. He stared at me. Yeah, but she used the safe phrase. Only 2 people outside my marriage knew that phrase. Cut scene. Millie stayed with Rain's girlfriend. Secure apartment, reinforced door, panic protocol in place. Don't promise me it's okay, Millie whispered as I kissed her forehead. I won't, I said. I'll promise you I'll come back. She nodded. She's always understood more than she should. Cut scene. The forest swallowed my signal 5 miles out. Trees tall, packed tight. Shadows moved faster than clouds. I parked on a gravel bend, boots crunching on frostbitten leaves. My Glock tucked against my hip. Silence. Then a woman's voice. Tori. I turned. Blonde. Wire-framed glasses. Nervous eyes. She stepped out from behind a pine. I'm Avery Dunn. I worked in the sequencing department. I knew your husband. I lowered the gun just slightly. Go. She pulled a flash drive from her coat. This has the raw Phase 9 genome files, not the cleaned ones. I took it. What am I looking for? Her father didn't just map her, Avery whispered. He embedded something in her code, a dormant signature, an execution line. For what? She shook her head. I don't know. But the name tied to it was Gemini, subroot Elias. That's not a phase. That's a person. A twig snapped. Avery flinched. Another crack. Then footsteps, fast. I shoved her down and turned. Gun raised. 2 men. Tactical gear. No insignias. They moved hard, coordinated. Military. Run. I shouted. Avery sprinted left. I ducked right. Fired twice. 1 man dropped. The other returned fire. Bullets shredded bark behind me. I hit the dirt, rolled down a shallow ditch, scraped my side raw. Cinematic. Blood. Breath. Cold mud in my mouth. I kicked up, fired again. Missed. Then. Silence. Gun click. Jam. He was coming. Boots pounded. Closer. Closer. Then a crack. His body dropped at my feet. Avery stood behind him, holding a jagged branch soaked in blood. She trembled. We need to go. Cut scene. 30 minutes later, in Rain's car, I watched the flash drive load. Encrypted partition. Labeled. EJ_Harwood. Avery whispered. EJ. That's not Elias's initials. I stared at it. Greg's middle name was James. No one knew that but me. The file opened. Code scrolled fast. Too fast. My name. Millie's name. Then, under aliases. Subject G9. Victoria Harwood. Preliminary carrier. Designation incomplete. My blood froze. I wasn't just Millie's mother. I was the test case before her. She wasn't the first. She was the only one who survived. Cold bit through my jeans before I felt the pain. Zip ties cut into my wrists. Pine needles pressed into my cheek. Somewhere above me, branches swayed, whispering like witnesses who refused to testify. A gun clicked. Not fired. Clicked. The sound of restraint. Open your eyes, Victoria. I didn't. Not yet. A trick Greg taught me once. Delay buys you angles. So I breathed, counted, smelled damp earth and gasoline. Then I opened them. A man stood 5 feet away, masked, black parka, military posture. The barrel hovered just above my forehead. You brought the drive, he asked. I burned it, I said. My voice surprised me. Come. Phase 9 dies with me. A pause. Just long enough. Then he laughed. Wrong laugh. Too amused. Too personal. He pulled the mask off. Rayford Kell. Older than the photos. Thinner. Eyes still sharp, like a man who never stopped planning. Gregory always said you were smarter than you looked, Rayford said. He also said you'd lie when cornered. My chest tightened. You killed him. Rayford tilted his head. No. I let him live with what he'd done. That's worse. Cut scene. Headlights flared through the trees. An engine roared. Rayford turned, half a second too slow. A truck smashed through the brush like a missile. Metal screamed. Wood exploded. The gun flew from his hand. Rain. The world turned fire and noise. I rolled. Hand scraping rocks, zip ties biting deeper. Someone grabbed me, cut plastic with a blade. Move, Rain barked. We ran. Shots cracked behind us. One hit metal. Another clipped bark inches from my head. Then silence. We didn't stop running until the trees thinned and the truck doors slammed shut. Breath tore out of me. I laughed once. Hysterical. Then stopped. Rain stared straight ahead, knuckles white on the wheel. That wasn't a recovery team. No, I said. That was an execution squad. Cut scene. We drove hard. No headlights. Back roads. Radio dead. I watched the trees blur and thought of something Greg once said while debugging a breach at 3 a.m. The scariest systems don't announce themselves. They just wait until you rely on them. Rain finally spoke. Rayford Kell went dark years ago. Off-grid. Shell companies. Private labs. He's not after money, I said. He's after control. And Elias? Rain asked. I shook my head. A pawn. Or a ghost. Cut scene. Safe house. One of Rain's old informant spots. Concrete walls. Generator hum. The smell of dust and burnt coffee. I plugged in the recovered drive Avery had handed me before she disappeared into the woods. The files loaded slower than before, like they knew I was watching. Then it hit me. Not code. Patterns. Heartbeat spikes. Neural response curves. Predictive behavior models. This isn't encryption, I whispered. It's conditioning. Rain leaned in. Explain. It maps response to stimulus. Fear. Compliance. Aggression. You don't control thoughts. You control reactions. I scrolled. Millie's name appeared again. Not as a subject. As an architecture layer. She's not tagged as a target, Rain said slowly. She's central. I swallowed. She's the operating system. Cut scene. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Elias's voice slid through the line. Calm, familiar now in the worst way. You saw the files. Yes. Then you know Rayford will never stop. You used her, I said. My daughter. I protected her, he shot back. From him. From Gregory. From you. That stung. More than I expected. You don't protect someone by turning them into a weapon, I said. A breath. Sometimes the world makes that choice for you. Click. The line went dead. Cut scene. Rain was already moving. We relocate Millie. Now. Too late. A video came through. No sound. Just Millie. Bound. Eyes open. Breathing fast. A shadow moved behind her. Text appeared over the image. 24 hours. Bring the key. My knees gave out. Rain caught me. Hey, stay with me. I looked up. There is no key. He met my eyes. Then we make one. I wiped my face. Focused. Fear is a luxury. Greg used to say that too. Panic is just ego morning control. I straightened. Rayford thinks Millie is leverage. She's more than that, Rain said. I nodded. Millie isn't the target. The words tasted like blood. She's the system. The church was abandoned, but the power still worked. Flickering fluorescent tubes buzzed overhead. Paint peeled from the altar like dead skin. Every step echoed too long. Rain checked the perimeter while I set up the signal scrambler. I always knew I'd end up in a place like this, I muttered, where no one could hear the truth bleed out. He gave a half smile. Better than ending up in a boardroom pretending monsters wear suits. Cut scene. On the screen, the file labeled E.J. Harwood. Inside, a subfolder I hadn't seen before. /failsafe /neural overlay v2. Not a failsafe. A fail switch. Code embedded in Millie's genetic sequence. A trigger tied to voice frequency, tone, and a very specific sentence pattern. Wait, Rain said. These aren't just triggers. These are override commands. I scrolled. One phrase was highlighted in yellow. Foreign until it wasn't. Call your real father. My stomach dropped. He used it on her, I whispered. At the table, my father used the command line. Voice print encoded to him, Rain said. He didn't say it out of spite. He said it to flip the switch. A beat. She's been running a program ever since. Cut scene. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood. We need to find Rayford's vault. If the primary code lives anywhere, it's there. Rain nodded. I already traced the purchase. 7 years ago. Underground facility, leased under a mining front in Clearfield County. You think it's still active? Rain pulled out a photo. Satellite heat scan. Lights are on. Cinematic. We moved fast. 90 minutes later, we approached the site. Snow fell hard now, muting everything. The trees were too still. The wind whispered in ways it shouldn't. We left the truck a mile out and went on foot. Midway, Rain froze. Infrared scanner buzzed once. Trip laser, he said. We're on camera. I didn't blink. Then let them watch. Let them know we're done hiding. Cut scene. Facility door. Steel. Coated panel. Scratches around the edges like someone tried to claw out. I keyed in Greg's birthday. Denied. Tried Millie's. Denied. Then tried mine. Accepted. That's when I knew. Greg hadn't protected us. He'd prepared us. The air hissed. Door opened. The hallway beyond smelled like copper and ozone. Lights flickered. A monitor flashed green once, then steady. We moved in. One room. One console. One chair. No guards. That's what scared me most. Rain moved to the terminal. I approached the far wall. Covered in post-it notes, DNA models, a cracked photo of me and Millie. Taken the day she turned 4. None of us remembered it being taken. Then, a voice. Behind us. Put your hands up. Now. We turned. Millie. Unarmed. Unblinking. Her expression blank. Behind her, Elias. Holding a gun. Don't say a word, he said. She's active. Any sudden stimuli could corrupt the sequence. I stepped forward. She's my daughter. Elias didn't lower the weapon, and I'm the one who kept her breathing. Rain raised his hands. What do you want? The key, Elias said. The master code. Victoria's DNA activates the back door. She's the fail-safe to the fail-safe. You used my body to build her code? I snapped. Elias looked at me like I was a lab sample. You volunteered. No. I loved Greg. And Greg loved ambition more than you'll ever understand. Cut scene. Elias pressed a button. Millie blinked. Her eyes flickered neon blue. I screamed. Rain lunged. A gunshot split the air. Rain dropped. Blood spread. Millie didn't move. I grabbed the chair, slammed it into Elias's side. He grunted, fired again, missed. We fought. Brutal. Sharp. Desperate. He hit the console. Sparks flew. Alarms wailed. In the chaos, Millie collapsed. I caught her. Her lips moved. Mom. Then her body seized. Greg built a timed override, Elias hissed, gasping. He knew I'd come for her. I turned. Blood on my face. On my hands. What happens now? Elias smiled, broken teeth shining red. You make a choice. He tossed a black keycard at my feet. One opens the backup server to stabilize her. Another beeped in my ear, Rain's calm. 10 seconds to detonation. And I understood. The facility wasn't just a vault. It was a kill switch, buried under Millie's code, tied to my DNA, and someone had just armed it. I saw the countdown on the console. 29 seconds. My breath went shallow. The air pressed down like it weighed more than oxygen. Millie was limp in my arms, her pulse thready, her eyes half open. She whispered, Mom. Every word I ever lived for crashed into that single syllable. Rain was on the radio, barely audible through static. Tori, 10 seconds. I didn't answer. My fingers were on the keycard, the one Rayford called the master code, the key to Millie, and maybe the key to ending this. I remembered something Greg once said during a long night debugging a breach. You don't fix a system by patching the surface. You break it and let the truth rebuild it. I swallowed. Hard. My mind flashed to Millie's smile at her first science fair. How proud she was of her circuit board that didn't work until I stayed up all night helping her. Success is not built on success. It's built on failure, frustration, and sometimes fear. Words I'd muttered to her after every scraped knee. I didn't think about the countdown. Not then. I thought about her. Rain tackled me to the ground. The blast radius. I know I breathed, but I lifted the card. Slide. Nothing. The console blinked red. 20 seconds. I slapped it again. Green flash. Then. Silence. No explosion. Just a flood of information. A screen that hadn't been active before. System logs. Encoded sequences. And one folder marked override_unlock. I stared. That wasn't the master. That was a backdoor. A fail-safe, never meant to be used. 14 seconds. Rain pointed. It's the secondary code based on adaptive gene response. Millie's gene. My gene. The console needed her input, not just the card. I looked at her face, pale, fragile, small in my arms. No, I whispered. But the screen asked. Authenticate. Vocal and retinal sync required. I lifted her head. Her eyes were glassy. I cupped her face. Millie, I said low. Her breathing hitched. 6 seconds. I whispered the equation. The phrase buried in her sequence. Call your real father. Her eyes widened. Then, blue, like light refracted through shattered ice. The screen flickered. Green. Code dissolving. Sequence complete. 0. And the system powered down. I gasped, pushed myself off the floor. Millie exhaled. Slow. Then stronger. Her eyes focused. On me. "Mom," she said. Just like before. I hugged her. Tight. Too tight. No words. Just holding. Rain exhaled next to me. "We need to go." The alarms had stopped. No blast. No fire. Just us. Walking out together. Cut scene. Outside, snow had begun to fall. Soft. White. Almost peaceful. 2 black SUVs slid into view. Agents with badges. FBI one said, "You need to come with us." I glanced at Millie. She trembled. I whispered, mostly to myself, "Courage is an absence of fear. It's the choice to face it." Millie nodded once. We walked toward the agents. Hand in hand. Cut scene. Weeks later. Hospital corridor. Sunlight through blinds. Millie sitting upright. Rain at her side. My father, older now, hands wrapped around his coffee. "I was wrong," he said. "About everything. About you. About her." I didn't answer. Not yet. I just hugged him. Millie looked at me. "Did we stop it?" she asked. I kissed her head. "Yes," I said. "We stopped it." Then she said something that hit me like thunder. Mom, Dad wasn't a stranger. I paused. Her eyes were steady. "I mean Greg. He wasn't perfect, but he tried to protect me." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "That's right," I said. "He did. And now we're done hiding." Cut scene. Weeks turned into months. The world didn't end. Nothing dramatic on the news. No government scandal. Just life. And the truth. I taught Millie how to code again. Not secrets this time. Just math. Just logic. Just simple equations that made the sky look less frightening. She smiled easy, like light after a storm. One day she said, "You know you were brave." I blinked. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. Brave isn't someone without fear. It's someone who keeps going. I thought of every night I'd stayed up alone. Every shadow in the hallway. Every knock on the door that wasn't love. I stirred my coffee. "Yeah," I said. "Brave is just fear with heart." She grinned. And in that moment, I believed her. Everything we'd survived wasn't just about code. Or genes. Or shadows we thought we could bury. It was about learning that the hardest battles are fought not in silence, but in truth. And truth, no matter how deep the secret, always finds the light.